Good morning, students. Welcome to our self-esteem presentation. I am Ms. Lizelle Miller. I am the social worker at the Department of Student Services at NUST. My office is located on main campus on the top floor where the SRC offices are. You are welcome to either email me or visit me at my office to make an appointment if you want to discuss any kind of challenges or even the presentation that is going to follow. My contact information will be displayed on the last slide, so you are welcome to contact me. The self-esteem presentation is divided into 4 parts. The main objective of the self-esteem presentation is to teach you what self-esteem is, to focus a little bit on how our self-esteem develops, and lastly, to provide you with tools to improve your self-esteem. So, let us start. Firstly, we will define self-esteem, meaning what is self-esteem and what low self-esteem is. Secondly, we will look at how you are doing, so there is a scale that you can complete to see where your self-esteem is at this point. Thirdly, we will look at how our self-esteem develops. Fourthly, we will look at the 4 pillars of how to improve your self-esteem. Lastly, where you want to be heading. So basically, how do you see your future and how can you affect change in your own life? So what is self-esteem? Self-esteem consists of different things, which includes your beliefs, the type of person you are, so meaning your personality, what is your positive or negative feelings and attributes, and lastly, where do you see yourself fitting into the world? So what is your future? This is all part of self-esteem. Let us look at what is the difference between self-esteem and confidence. Confidence is how you behave, how you look, what you say, and how you react. So this is external, this is what people see. However, self-esteem is inward. It is your own life experiences, the way you feel about your successes and your failures, the way you experience other people's judgment and how you judge other people, and the way you feel, meaning whether it is positive or negative. The difference then between confidence and self-esteem is confidence is how you portray yourself to the world. And self-esteem is how you feel inside about yourself. So there are situations where you will see a person is confident. They portray themselves as confident, but inwardly they do not feel that way about themselves. In the previous slide, we identified what self-esteem is. So, what is low self-esteem? A person who suffers from low self-esteem often believe negative things about themselves. They will focus more on their weaknesses or mistakes that they have made instead of their strengths and successes. They find it hard to recognize the positive parts of their personality and blame themselves for any difficulties or failures that they have experienced. So it is important at this point for you to look at what low self-esteem is and figure out whether you might have low self-esteem. We have looked at what low self-esteem is. The Rosenberg self-esteem scale is completed to determine where your self-esteem is. As you can see, there are 10 questions. You will either mark strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. On the next slide, I will show you how to mark yourself. So take your time, read through each question, and then respond on the question with either strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. On the previous slide, you have marked strongly agree, agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. So what you will do now is look at this slide and mark yourself, and then you will be able to see whether you fall into a normal range of self-esteem or into a low self-esteem. At this point, you will then be able to have an idea of whether you have a good self-esteem or a low self-esteem. How does our self-esteem develop? Our self-esteem develops from past events, things that have happened to us in the past. Secondly, our self-esteem is developing every day. Self-esteem is a journey, and developing your self-esteem is a process. Every day we learn something new about ourselves. Every day we are confronted with different relationships, different situations, and so we learn new things about ourselves and our personality. I always say to students, it is not a once-off thing, developing your personality and your self-esteem. You constantly and continuously work on your self-esteem. There are many possible causes for developing low self-esteem, and I will look at each one a little throughout the next few slides, but I do not want to focus too much on each one, as I would like to focus more on how you can work on improving your self-esteem. Firstly, childhood experiences has an influence on your present and on your future. Bullying by parents and peers can cause low self-esteem. This is especially important if you did not get family support for difficult experience or trauma in your life. Unsupportive parents or family can also cause low self-esteem. Support can make a difference on how these experiences influence you. Difficult life events as an adult, like death or illness or violence, can cause low self-esteem. Stressful events like divorce can cause low self-esteem as well. Sometimes we do not have the skills to deal with difficult life events, and that will cause low self-esteem. A child who is temperamentally high in negative affectivity and therefore likely to have a low threshold for responding to failure with intense feelings of anxiety, sadness, shame, and humiliation may be more likely to develop low self-esteem. Relationships can lead to low self-esteem. Breakups, unsupportive parents can cause conflict within relationships, and this can contribute to low self-esteem. Think about the time that you broke up with someone and how you felt about yourself in dealing with rejection and disappointment. There is a relationship between stress and low self-esteem. The interaction between self-esteem and stress is often more dramatic and destructive in people with lower self-esteem. Individuals with low self-esteem tend to feel helpless and incapable of overcoming challenges in their life. Low self-esteem in people can cause even routine challenges to appear impossible. Another aspect of the connection between stress and self-esteem is lack of assertiveness. Not being assertive and not being able to say no to a task that you cannot take up causes stress. So stress and low self-esteem is very closely connected. Discrimination and stigma is part of our world. We see this every day, sometimes in the way we deal with people or the way people deal with us. So as soon as you are different in a way, so maybe you are disabled or you have a mental illness, or maybe you are different in your gender identity or your sexual orientation, there is discrimination and stigma sometimes associated with that. And this usually means that people are being treated as an outsider or different. And this causes lots of times a low self-esteem in our individuals, as they feel they do not fit in and thus are treated also as if they do not fit in. Loneliness and social isolation can negatively affect your mental health as well as your physical health. You might be filled with self-doubt as you wonder why you can't seem to connect with others. Perhaps you begin to question your worth, and this causes low self-esteem. So sometimes being socially isolated or lonely causes you to think that you are not a person of value. Social media can be a very positive gadget in the world, as it can lead to a lot of education and inspiration and motivation. However, there is a tendency, especially in the younger generation, to compare themselves with people and friends on social media. We tend to see only the good things that happen to people on social media and think that people's lives are as great as they show on social media. We then believe if our lives are not that great, we are not good enough. I always say to students that you always must keep in mind that people will not show you the difficult side of themselves on Facebook. It is important when we look at social media that we are critically of what we see and do not compare ourselves to other people on social media. I always suggest to students that you do take social media breaks. It is important to always be realistic. When you look at social media, you look at what people are saying and doing and portraying, as this is also not completely the truth. I have already discussed mental health and mental illness and how it contributes to low self-esteem. I think our community still has a long way to go in accepting people in our community that struggle with their mental health, and it's important to note that everybody goes through challenging times and deals with their own problems. You might think that you are the only one that is struggling, but around us there are people that are struggling with major challenges. So mental health issues like depression, anxiety, etc., can lead to a low self-esteem as you feel you are different and not accepted. In the previous few slides, we have looked at the causes of low self-esteem and how we might develop low self-esteem. It is important to look at why low self-esteem is harmful. When you do have low self-esteem, it has three causes. Firstly, it makes it harder for you to try new things or take up new tasks. For example, trying new hobbies, and even being scared to complete a job application. Secondly, who we think we are or are not can deeply impact what we consider possible and what we do with our talents and passions. Thirdly, low self-esteem can cause you to develop unhelpful and unhealthy behaviors to cope. For example, you will be in a relationship that is damaging for you, and instead of getting out of that relationship, you will remain in the relationship. People with low self-esteem also engage in harmful behavior like drugs and excessive drinking. In conclusion, it is then important to develop your self-esteem and improve your self-esteem so that you can cope in the world, you can engage in positive relationships, and take up new responsibilities and new tasks. I always use this picture to sum up when we think about self-esteem. It is what matters most is how you see yourself and not how the world sees yourself. We have now looked at the consequences of low self-esteem and how our self-esteem develops. So from here on, we will focus on how you improve your self-esteem and what are the steps you need to take to be able to develop your self-esteem. I have identified 4 levels that you must work through to be able to improve your self-esteem. I've put it in a pyramid form. The first level of the pyramid is self-awareness. The second is self-acceptance. The third is self-love. And the fourth is self-worth. These are the 4 different steps that you must take to reach and to improve your self-esteem. You must go through all 4 of these levels to improve your self-esteem. It is important to note that good self-esteem doesn't develop on its own. You need to work on yourself consistently and continuously. So let us start with the first level, which is self-awareness. The first level of improving your self-esteem starts with self-awareness. Self-awareness starts with getting to know yourself. This part is important and there should be no judgments. It starts with just recognizing who you are. So ask yourself a few questions like, who am I? Am I a daughter, a son? Am I a college student? Am I a writer? Am I a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend? Am I a thoughtful person? So who are you? And even going a little bit deeper, do I like working with people? Do I like working on my own? All of those kind of questions. The second question, how am I? So how do I function in my schoolwork? How do I function in my relationships, in my responsibilities, my activities? Then the third question is, what are my strengths and weaknesses? I will also attach some worksheets that you can complete to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. So again, this is just about awareness, about figuring out what you are good at and what you are not that good at. Okay. So you only discover who you are. In the previous slide, we started to journey on discovering who you are. Now, in this slide, I will provide you with 3 tools that you can use to make the exercise in the previous slide easier. The first is the Myers-Briggs personality test that you can find at www.truity.com. In this personality test, you start with discovering who you are. You can though search on the internet, as there are many tools and questionnaires that you can use to discover more about yourself. The second tool is to get yourself a book where you can journal your discovery of who you are and create a routine of gratitude. A self-esteem journal is a journal where you write down what you learn about yourself. You keep this journal for the rest of your life and you write down as you learn things about yourself. As the fact is that you learn every day something new about yourself. A gratitude journal is where you write down what you are thankful for. I suggest that you start it as a daily or a weekly exercise to recognize what you can be thankful for. And this also contributes a lot to your mental health. You will also see on campus these bottles that we call gratitude jars. These bottles are for you to put in what things you are thankful for every day. At the end of the month, we will collect all these notes and we'll post them on our Facebook page and Instagram page. So you can use these. Use these so that we create a culture of thankfulness. These 3 tools is very important to start with your journey on discovering who you are and you know what you enjoy, what you not enjoy. In the previous two slides, we focused on getting to know who you are. Figuring out who you are is very important in the process of self-esteem development. If you do not know who you are, you cannot start accepting yourself. Getting to know who you are is a process that continues throughout your life. We are different in different situations. At work, we might be focused and planned. At your home, you are maybe more relaxed and not so organized. And in your relationships with your friends, you might be different than in your relationships with your family or even your partner. The next pillar in the process of developing your self-esteem is self-acceptance. This is probably the hardest of all the levels to achieve. Self-acceptance means to feel accepted not just by yourself but also by the world. Self-acceptance includes accepting our strengths and our weaknesses. Why is this so hard? It is hard as the world's view of strengths is sometimes different from your own view of strengths. It is also true that different changes, gender and different cultures are judged differently by the world. This is why it is important to really look at yourself not just through the world, but through your own eyes, but also through the eyes of the people that care about you. So it's really about accepting you with your strengths as well as with your flaws. We can look at this interesting fact that I've quoted in this slide. Another interesting aspect of diversity and self-esteem is the average difference observed between men and women across many countries. Women have been found to report lower self-esteem than men. However, these differences have generally been found to be small, particularly in nations where gender equality in law and opportunity is higher. These findings are consistent with the situation that self-esteem, in part, relates to the view that others have of our importance in the wider world. As women's opportunity to participate in careers outside of the home have increased in many nations, so the difference between their self-esteem and that of men have decreased. This emphasizes again that our self-esteem is also related to how important we think we are in the world. This is why I do think it is important to find a purpose for yourself in your world, in your family, in your home, and specifically in the work that you do every day. So why do we not just accept ourselves as we are? Why is this so difficult for us? There are three main theories that might explain why we find it difficult to accept ourselves as we are. Firstly, you might have to make changes other people might not agree to or accept. Secondly, we sometimes believe that by accepting our strengths, we are prideful or selfish. And thirdly, we believe that accepting our weakness means we cannot change. Accepting yourself is a daily process. It is unconditional and it's lifelong. I've already mentioned that it doesn't mean accepting yourself that you accept your weakness. You can select to accept your weakness but still decide to make changes. So this can be growth. We have now focused on the first and second levels of self-esteem development. This was self-awareness and then self-acceptance. We will now focus on the third level, which is self-love. You all know who you are. You accepted who you are. So now you must care about yourself. This includes specific actions. This isn't anymore just about thinking, but this is about taking specific actions and activities to care about yourself. It's it's taking the negative things in your life and turning it into positive things. Self-care is about creating and developing positive behavior. This includes having positive relationships, meaning to have people in your life that contributes to your life and support you. It's about developing hobbies at home that can help you manage your stress, but also being positive about your work and your purpose at your work environment. It's developing positive behavior like assertiveness, being able to say no when you cannot do something. Positive behavior also includes having enough exercise, a good diet, and enough sleep. Lastly, it's looking at the challenges in your life as a learning experience. So when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Self-care is about changing negative behavior into positive behavior. So it's really about really critically looking at your life, about everything in your life, your spirituality, your emotional, your physical, um, and really looking at your behavior and saying, what of these things do not contribute to my life and make my life better? What do I need to change to have a more positive outlook on the world, and to really deal with the challenges that that life and the world gives you? So self-care is also about turning negative thoughts into positive thoughts. A lot of what we do and what we feel starts with how we think. So turning those negative beliefs into positive beliefs. One example that I always use is saying, for instance, I'm an idiot because I made a mistake, and replacing this thought with, I made a mistake, it's okay, what now? So how can I change that mistake and learn from that mistake? So it's again about critically evaluating your thoughts, your negative thoughts, and turning it into positive thoughts. The last level of the pyramid is self-worth. So the first level is self-awareness, which included who am I, how am I, what are my strengths and my weaknesses. The second level is self-acceptance, which included what do I need to accept about myself, as well as how am I accepted in the world. The third level is self-love or self-care. It is about turning your negative behavior and negative messages into positive behavior and positive messages. So the last level is about self-worth. This is about finding who you want to become. What do you not want to become? It is about figuring out who you want to be and changing your thinking, behavior, and feelings to be able to become who you want to be. It is at this point of your self-esteem development that you set up goals for your life. You realize what your purpose in life is and what your life should be. It is important to note that self-esteem development, as I've already mentioned, is a continuous process. Especially during challenging times and having problems in your life, your self-esteem will empower and make you stronger to deal with these challenging times or problems. We are almost at the end of our presentation. I've put down a few self-esteem affirmations that you can use in your own life. I always suggest that you choose one. You then write this affirmation on a piece of paper and you keep it. And you say the affirmation to yourself every morning and every evening. Self-esteem affirmations, for instance, includes I have the right to say I don't know. I have the right to say no without feeling guilty. I have the right to make mistakes and be responsible for them. I have the right to be wrong. These are all different self-esteem affirmations that are basically truths about life. And I want all of you to read through all of them and maybe choose one to start with. And really, when you do say this often and you make it as part of your life, then it can really change the way you think and feel and behave in your workplace, in your relationships, wherever you go. These are just the resources that I used. It's sometimes a good idea to also go back to these resources and read up a little bit about it. Yes. Thank you very much for listening to the presentation. As you can see, here is my email address. It's lmiller@nust.na. You are very welcome to contact me to make an appointment or email me if you want to come and see me and have further discussions about the presentation. You have my office number as well. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram under the NUS Department Student Services, and also on YouTube. But I will again invite you, please, if you want to talk about self-esteem and the presentation more in detail, and if you want my help to improve your self-esteem, please contact me and we can set up a time that suits you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.